Sonic Drive-In claims service at the speed of sound, but it's also a franchise with a history of confusion and a paradoxical vision. The company managed to make franchising that ordinarily should add structure confusion, and while it is rooted in the past in terms of service, it also has a powerful vision of the future. So how does the company manage to survive with its paradoxical nature? Come find out. It's not the hedgehog, but Sonic Drive-In is quite fast. They don't have the slogan, service at the speed of sound, for nothing. Speed is one of the business's gimmicks, and it has quite a few of them. It wouldn't be the only business that would use gimmicks. Every food and drink brand has them. Another of the company's gimmicks would be its slushies. So what's so special about the store's drinks? Well, everything is, at least going by the company's statistics, which put the slushies at 25% of Sonic Drive-In's business. Customers can't get enough of the drink, and it's not surprising. The possibilities of those drinks are endless, with Wall Street Journal saying customers can get up to 688,133 slushie combinations. Some say customers have over 1 million combinations when they add the company's fountain drinks to the mix. So the slushie could be different each time they visit the restaurant. And that's not all in the company's bag of tricks. Burger King has burgers with grill marks on them. Grater's has its French pot system for making ice cream, and so on. For the drive-in, apart from their slogan and slushies, they inspire nostalgia. You see, most of the company's stores use the car hop system, which came to complement drive-ins. Yes, drive-ins and not drive-through. People mix up the two, but there is a difference between them. In a drive-in, you order food from your car using the restaurant's intercom. You park after ordering, and the restaurant's waiters or waitresses bring the food to you, walking or sometimes with their roller skates. For drive-throughs, you order, get your food, and leave. There isn't any designated place for you to eat. Although, to be fair to those who take drive-ins and drive-throughs to mean the same thing, it's honestly understandable. At some point, when a business has heavy patronage, they ask customers to park, and one of their employees brings the food to the customers. The waitress or waiters gliding towards you are called car hops, and Sonic copied them from J.G. Kirby and R.W. Jackson, a physician. But it isn't the only food company to copy from these two men. Anyone who uses the car hop service copied from them. Jackson and Kirby came up with the idea to take advantage of the automobile boom in Dallas and began implementing it in 1921. The two men opened the Pig Stand restaurant and used car hops as a central part of their service. You might notice that you see more women on roller skates than men in some old pictures. The reason for this is World War II, which saw many men in the United States getting drafted into the Army. Plus, businesses have noticed that men are likelier to spend more when a waitress serves them. But pretty waitresses also attracted the wrong audience, and companies had to provide equal opportunities across genders in the 1940s. Although at the time, the car hop system was slowly getting outdated. In the 1960s, drive-ins were done. They got replaced by drive-throughs, and the number of car hops reduced. So the big question is, with car hops now old news, how come it's central to Sonic Drive-In service? It began with Troy Newell Smith, who was born on May 26, 1922 in Oilton Creek County, Oklahoma. Smith and his family moved to Econtucka, Seminole County, where his father got a job working in the oil fields. Smith enrolled in and graduated from Seminole High School in 1940 and married Dolly Twiggs the following year. Troy enlisted in the United States Air Force when World War II began in 1942, and from there, his real journey began. When Smith left the Army after the war, he returned to Seminole, Oklahoma, and he got a job as a milkman. Along the line, Troy stopped delivering milk and started delivering bread, but he still wasn't satisfied. He wanted to feel more in control. So Troy gathered his resources and bought the Cottage Cafe, a small diner in Shawnee, Oklahoma. But it wasn't a sweet victory for Smith, as the revenue from the diner wasn't enough to support his family. Smith sold the diner and opened a larger fast food restaurant, Troy's Pan Full of Chicken. Troy believed he had struck gold and was thinking of expansion. However, all his expansion attempts failed, and that wasn't all. In 1953, Troy's Pan Full of Chicken closed, but he wasn't about to give up. Troy doubled down even further and remained determined to have a fast food business. Then he met Joy McKimmy, and together they bought a 5-acre lot with a log house. The two men created a root beer stand, which they called the Top Hat, and the log house served as a steakhouse. Top Hat yielded more revenue than the Log House Steak Restaurant, and Smith focused his attention on Top Hat. Then he bought out his partner. And if you like to learn about the history of your favorite eateries, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. Soon, Smith struck gold. He discovered a Louisiana restaurant that ran a more efficient version of his Top Hat store. The Louisiana restaurant had an intercom system that allowed customers to order and have an employee give them their food in their cars. Smith had discovered the drive-in, and he began to adopt the method for his root beer store. He built a model of how his business would adopt the drive-in system, and when he got what would work for him, he immediately implemented it. Sales went up dramatically, and soon Troy had his first franchise owner, Charles Papp, in 1956. But Papp wasn't a true franchise owner in the traditional sense. Maybe a partner would be a more fitting description, and this became one of the company's problems. They would later have a franchise that wasn't acting like one. When Papp wanted to create his restaurant, Smith told Papp to name his business, which was also going to be a drive-in, Top Hat, and the two sealed their agreement with a handshake. See what we mean about a franchise that didn't act like one? How would franchise owners be sure of their position if all they can refer to is a handshake, not a detailed document? The business didn't have a sophisticated royalty plan, with franchisees paying a penny for each sandwich paper bag the company's central supplier supplied. But Papp and Smith didn't stop with the handshakes. Slowly, they began to expand, opening locations in Enid and Stillwater in 1958. But the two men would soon encounter a setback. It turned out that Papp and Smith didn't do their research well. While the two men went about with their Top Hat name, they never checked to see if they could legally use it. When they did check, they found out that someone else operated using the name Top Hat, and they had to change it. They instructed the other franchises to change their name to Sonic Drive-In, and the business continued its steady expansion. Soon, the corporation suffered a tragedy. Papp died in 1967 when the firm had 41 stores. But Smith quickly found a helping hand in two of his franchisees, Matt Kinslow and Marvin Gyrus. The three men continued to manage the business, and when it got too big for them to handle, as they passed 165 drive-ins, they restructured the franchise, something they would often do until the business had some form of order. Part of the restructuring required the franchise owners to contribute a percentage of their revenue for advertisements. The company had its first advertising TV commercial in 1977, after its profits began to decline. However, the advertisement didn't prevent the business from recording losses in the early 80s, and by 1981, the business had lost 300 locations. The company's advertisement profile increased in the 1980s as it used professional actors. But it wasn't until the late 80s and early 90s that it used Frank Avalon, which many of its customers identified with. The drive-in business would go through more major changes. It created a school for training new franchise owners, went private after a leveraged buyout in 1986, and went public again just 5 years later. The company continued to improve its ads, and it became popular with its national ad campaigns that featured T.J. Jagodowski and Peter Grosz in the early 2000s. Those two improvisational performers brought the Two Guys era of commercials to the company. However, as popular as their ads became, the firm had mixed success until it got worse in the 2008-2009 financial crash. Things got better, but in 2015, the business began to record reduced patronage. So, yeah, mixed success. The company blamed its mixed success on several factors, some of which are weird. The franchise blamed the weather. Yeah, you heard that right. The weather. While it is funny, it kinda makes sense. As a drive-in, they couldn't operate in cold places during the winter. Also, Sonic Drive-In is slow. When it comes to adapting to the market, the business doesn't operate at the speed of sound, but at the speed of a snail. The business didn't change its prices when its competitors did, putting it at a disadvantage. Another company, Inspire Brands, bought the company in 2018, but things didn't improve. So it looks like it will soon be the end of the business. Or is it? It could have been if COVID hadn't happened. So while many businesses collapsed during COVID-19, the company's drive-in operation allowed it to see a revival in patronage. The company's sales increased by $1 billion and has been doing well ever since. Is this new surge sustainable? Or will it burn out faster than the speed of sound? We'll find out. Sonic has had its ups and downs, and it may just survive them. But maybe it wouldn't be in this mess if it hadn't refused to adapt to changes in consumer preferences. Do you think the business should have remained a drive-in or adapted to become a drive-through like all the other big brands? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel.